A lot of times people who are hyper-religious also struggle with being hypersexual. So there's usually a conflict in between those two things. Hi, my name is Dr. Natalie Jones. I'm a licensed therapist. I've been counseling men and women for many years who have been both victims and or perpetrators of abuse. And one of the things that I wanted to talk about was, and I've done a few posts here about, religion, but one of the things that I've noticed in counseling over the years is that a lot of people who struggle with, being super religious and being super conformed to religious sects or sectors or cults or things like that. A lot of times those things, those people often struggle with hypersexuality. And religion can often be used as a cover for sexual conflict. So do not be surprised at all when you find people that are often sort of touting the Word of God and spreading the Word of God and getting on you for not following the Word of God to a T, but are also up there, quote unquote, sinning as well. So it's more of they have more of a do as I say attitude and not do as I do attitude. And so, that's why, a lot of times and again, this isn't all the time. So I'm not, I want you guys to understand this doesn't apply to everybody. But by and large, it does happen with a lot of people. And it's not just a coincidence, either. But a lot of times what you will see is like these pastors that are sort of, Bible beating, Bible thumping, and praising the Word of God, but you may have him sleeping with a married person in a congregation, right? Or there's usually there's some sexual scandal. I mean, with the Catholic Church, we all know, what happened with a lot of those preachers in there, right? And the scandals and the lawsuits and things like that we saw coming out of there. They were often, there was a lot of child sexual abuse going on in the Catholic Church. And I don't really want to go back and forth with people about it. This is stuff that's actually on the book, so you can Google it instead of trying to go back and forth with Dr. Jones about it. But there's all this stuff and sexual conflict, and I think when people are trying to present that good boy, that good girl sort of facade or image to people, they will often use God as a shield to cover that up. They also may be trying to run from their conflicts by seeking God. So there could be actual seeking, but a lot of times it's oftentimes a shroud or a cloak from what they're really dealing with. And God goes out the window when they're turned on, right? So God is nowhere to be found, when they're horny every night or when they're looking for the next thing to sort of hump on or hunch on. But nobody wants to talk about that. And that horniness can extend over to children. It can extend over to people of the night, so streetwalkers and things like that. But nobody wants to talk about that because the Bible is nowhere to be found. And it's almost like it didn't happen with these people. But a lot of times they'll struggle with trying to discern, hey, what have I done? Am I a good person? Have I done the right thing in life? And a lot of you have suggested, this does come up a lot with prisoners and as well, people who've done a lot of bad things, but also have, a high amount of sex addictions as well, or they covet sex from anything and anybody on the regular. And just as an aside, I'll give you guys a little story, right? So many years ago, way back when, I don't know when this was. This is early 2000s, right? Dr. Jones and friends, this is way before I was Dr. Jones, I went to a R. Kelly concert. And this was one of his earlier concerts. It was the only one of its kind. So this was the first and last concert that he gave. So I don't know if there's anybody out there who watches me who went to this concert, but you and I were some of the only people that went there. It was the R. Kelly R concert. And the reason why this is the only one of this concert, because he gave it one time and then after that it was banned. It was so outrageous. And this was like the beginning of R. Kelly being outrageous, right? So, we went to this concert. It was R. Kelly. It was Nas. It was Eve. It was, Strawberry. And I feel like there was one other person. It was a fantastic lineup. Great concert up until we get to R. Kelly. R. Kelly was the headliner of the show. And it was the R. Kelly R concert. And, so he's singing and then he gets to, I think it was Sex Me, and that's his song. And so, this bed comes out on the stage and then he plucks some woman from the audience and they get up on stage and he proceeds to take off most of his clothes and most of her clothes, and they get in this bed that's on stage. And I'm not joking about this. And I sit up in my seat because I'm like, what the hell's going on? Like, what's happening right now? This is wild. We're all kind of like, I think even the stoners, and I was pretty close to the front row, so even the stoners down in the bottom were like, even they stopped stoning for a minute to sit up because everybody's like, what's going on right now? So him and this woman jump in the bed, and it looks like they're proceeding to have sex on stage. And we're all like, oh my God, what is going on? Is this real? And so it looks like it's real. And so then it's like smoke, and he goes on, they're on stage for a few minutes in this bed. And I'm like, oh my God, R. Kelly, what's going on? And, so then there's smoke, and then, the curtains come down, and then they come back up. R. Kelly's still in the bed, and he jumps up out of that bed, and he's in his spiffies, so his little tighty whities or whatever, boxers, like little boxers, and his tube socks. And he jumps up out of that bed and he starts singing gospel. And I'm just like, we're all losing our mind. It's not just me. I'm like, is this man, did he really just get up out of that bed? And then he popped into his gospel album. I'm like, wow, he is really conflicted, and it's wild. And that's kind of, that's kind of R. Kelly, but I feel like that kind of portrays people that are, very religious and struggle with these sexual demons also at the same time. I feel like that's an excellent portrayal of that. And no shade against R. Kelly or anybody, that's a fan of his, but I just wanted to demonstrate that. But yeah, that concert got banned after that because of that stunt that he pulled on that stage. And but yeah, and that was on the news. So hope this helps. Like, comment, share, and follow.